Best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets, casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your check. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Happy Monday, everybody. We got a nice little 6-game NHL slate tonight. It's good to be back after having a nice day off yesterday. Had some good time with the fiance and her family. But today's a little special treat for you guys. We have Jim with us, or RK in Slack chat. He's the research station guru along with the correlation matrix. And I also have low-owned wide receiver back with me tonight, also known as Cam. So, guys,
that intro was short. I had more time than that. I had more time than that. I was supposed to be back in this chair before that was over. I was ready.
We got a good look at your chair, though. That's fine. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good, man. I'm excited to be on here. So that definitely, this is my first podcast, live webcast, everything. So
there you go. We're glad to have you. I mean, you have all the insight about our research station and everything. So it's definitely helped us a lot with making our own little sheets to help us out. And obviously,
he's the man.
He's the man. If you guys got questions about anything to do with Excel, just ask him because he knows. I thought I knew a lot, and then I'm like, dang, I don't know how to do this. I got to ask Jim.
The crazy part was I had no idea how to do any of this when I started it too. It was basically just learn as I go. We had other people with us at the time that were a big help. So it's just I try to pass it down. But yeah, I mean, I'm just going to try to chime in with, backing you guys' analysis up with, numbers and a lot of new eyeballs on NHL this week because the NBA break that happens every year. So I'm going to try to, use this to kind of go over some of the tools and everything and hopefully get people more familiar with them, help them use them a little better.
Yeah, I know we were getting a lot of questions about tiers, and Jim is great at tiers. I mean, didn't you take a couple tournaments down this year already?
I took one down. That was actually my first win. Won $1,000 a couple weeks ago. Came close a couple years ago, man. I was always in the top 5, top 10, just always like that 1 or 2 short. The amount of time I dedicate to the tools, though, I don't get to play as often because of my work schedule. So I might only play actually 3 days a week, if that. Just because I don't like setting lineups in the morning and finding out something changed and then not being able to edit it that last minute. So I try to avoid those situations. So, yeah, cash has been rough this year too for tiers. So I definitely had to change my strategy up a little bit some. So I see how tonight goes. I did pretty decent a couple nights ago. Lost everything the night after that. So it's up and down. It's volatile. We all go through it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I started getting into a little bit more tiers, and like you and I had a nice conversation, kind of like your process for tiers, and threw in that $5, and I cashed. I didn't come close to winning it, but I was literally like, I think 2 guys away. And like, that's how like the big swings in tiers could be. You could have the same exact lineup as the guy who won, and just that one person makes a huge difference. Like if that guy that he played hits and yours scores like 3 points.
Yeah, it definitely comes down to getting this with GPP. It comes down to getting your core stack right and then trying to get as many iterations as that core stack as you can. So I definitely always hand build, even if I'm doing like recently the $5 has been 35 lineup max. I've been hand building those 35 lineups. Tonight, I think it might be 50 max or 57 max. I haven't entered it yet because the max entered at for $5 is well over what I normally invest in a slate. So I haven't made a decision on that yet, but I'll definitely be making 20 lineups in the $1. But yeah, hand build because and I'll go over that process a little later too if we have more time. It's just find a core stack, build a lineup around it, and then find one tier where it's like a one-off play, and just continually copy that same lineup and change that one person out in that tier.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your stack hits, you're guaranteed to nut that tier. You will have the nuts in that tier because you took every single person available, and then it just comes down to getting the rest of the lineup to hit.
Now, when you're playing tiers for tournaments, do you ever do single bullets, or do you always enter more than one lineup? Like, do you max out if you're playing in a contest? Do you always max it out?
I will. GPPs I like to max out because it's kind of that's why you're playing them. I mean, even the playing field. I prefer the 20 max. Like I said, the $5 has been 35 max, so that's been good. More than 35, I haven't decided if I want to do that yet. I might stick to my 35 or just stick to 20. Single entries, I just put my cash lineup in. The sport's volatile enough. A cash lineup in NHL could easily take down a single entry slate, especially with their small contests. We're not talking about 1,000-person contests in Classic. Some of the single entries tonight are 50 people. I'll put my cash lineup against 50 people.
That's good to know. I mean, we haven't had a whole lot of tiers talk the last week or so, and I know people have been asking us a lot about it, so that's a good process to kind of follow. But we will get into the slate here in a minute, but I'll start off with just some key injury notes that we have tonight, especially with Colorado. We got Nathan McKinnon. He's going to miss another game. I think he skated this morning, but with a non-contact jersey, so it's never – and he'll probably miss a couple games. Cal McCarr is still out, and Bowen Byram is still out. So we're still going to see the normal guys get a little uptick on defense with Girard and Taves. The big thing that they did with McKinnon being out is they made Rantanen center the top line. So it's Landeskog, Rantanen, and Nichushkin. So it's interesting to see how long they're going to stay with that, or if they're going to end up switching up the center. But JT Comper's out too, so they're down two centers. So someone winger is going to have to play center that doesn't normally play it. We're still waiting. Luckily, the Vegas game is the first game of the slate. Mark Stone and Alex Pietrangelo, we're waiting on their news. I'm kind of leaning more that Pietrangelo is going to miss and Stone is going to play. But we'll probably get that news in the next couple hours because that is the first game on the slate. Elias Pettersson, he's out for Vancouver again. Timo Meyer's a game-time decision for the Sharks, and Sundqvist for the Blues is not expected to play. Those are the big injury news that I saw. Did you guys see anything that I might have missed when you were looking at things?
No, that sounds like it's it to me. Oh, I think you got it.
Right. Did you mention Jonathan Quick with LA? I wasn't.
No, I did not. I was kind of hoping Peterson was going to start all day. So, but
I was too.
Jonathan Quick, he's got an upper body injury, so he might. I don't know. He might miss a couple games. He might just miss tonight. We'll kind of have to wait and see on that. But if you guys don't know, we had a little promo code if you guys want to sign up for the DFS Army. I know a lot of NBA folks are coming over. They might just have the NBA stuff for DFS Army, but use the code Mdell, save yourself 10% on your VIP membership. Get in Slack, ask a bunch of questions. We're always around. We're gonna try to do this live stream probably 5-6 times a week. I will let you know that I won't be available tomorrow. Cam and Flynn got you on the sheets. I'm not sure if they're gonna do any stream or anything, but they'll have you covered for the sheets. I got a busy day tomorrow, but Wednesday through Saturday, I'm gonna get on a live stream and I'll be on the sheets every day there. And then Sunday's kind of up in the air. I'm not sure when the slate is gonna start yet. But if I have enough time when I get back from church, then I will try to hop on a quick little pod if we can do that for you, because I know you guys have been benefiting from it. Make sure you keep asking up those questions in the comments, and we can get to those as we're going through the stream here. And then at the end, we'll always leave it open for a little bit. We'll kind of give some final thoughts on the slate, and then we'll answer any questions that we haven't answered in the rest of the pod. But what do you say we get right into it, guys, and start with the Vegas Golden Knights at the Minnesota Wild? Vegas is implied 2.9 goals, Minnesota 2.7. And this game, I mean, I'm not used to my team playing at 8 p.m. It's kind of weird. But what are your guys' first thoughts on this game tonight? Cam, we'll start with you.
And no thoughts, apparently. No, we're just not thinking about it, you know?
Mhm.
Petrangelo being out, that I kind of leading on your side as well that he's probably definitely not going to play, and Mark Stone might. So Holden was going to see a good bump in minutes. I wish Haig was cheaper on DraftKings because he's already 3,400, which if he plays 18 to 20, that's basically what you're paying for anyway. But I definitely think Holden, Whitecloud, and Haig probably get a bump tonight. I don't really see Theodore and Martinez playing too many more minutes than normal. Riley Smith scored 2 times in his last 2 games, but he's just not putting it on the puck enough, and I feel like there's better value plays at that range. And Marchessault got priced up, so I'm not really looking at that. And Pacioretty, if you can fit him tonight, I don't mind it, but Connor McDavid and Leon better be in there first.
Yeah, and I'll start with the goalies here. Fleury is my cash goalie. He struggled. No, he didn't play against them the first game in their last little mini series, but he was able to shut him down in the second game that Vegas played him. And obviously he's a better goaltender than I would say even Leonard this year. He's obviously better than Dansk or however you say his name. He plays 1 game. He probably won't play another game the rest of the year because Leonard should be coming back soon. So he's my cash guy. He's my number 1 cash option. I don't mind Capo Kakinen for tournaments. He's been a lot better than Talbot this year. Talbot did start in the 2 games against Vegas when they played last week, and he just got totally shelled. So I think Minnesota's just trying to change things up a little bit and throw in the young goaltender to see if he can stop Vegas. It's definitely going to be a hard task, but he's been really good this year. So if you want to throw him in a few tournament lineups, I don't have any issue with that. I mean, this is a low Vegas total for both teams in this game. So I think it's going to be, I would say it would be low owned, but people just love playing the first game of a slate and they forget about the last one. So it might gain a little more ownership just because of that, but I don't think it should be that high owned. But Cam was saying for Vegas on the offensive side, if Pietrangelo does miss, you'll see Holden get more minutes. You'll see Haig and Whitecloud all get more minutes. Haig's been really good. He's really cheap too. And like you said with Theodore and Martinez, I think they already play 25 minutes a game, so I doubt they go up all that much. They might play an extra shift or 2. With Mark Stone, if he ends up not playing, I don't see how they don't just move Alex Tuch to the top line. What do you think about that?
Your turn, bud.
Oh, actually, yeah. As far as the individual guys, I mean, I'm going to leave the analysis up to you. I do have something to say about the goalies if you want to double back to that, and then I'll dive into tiers. But
we all want to hear what you have to say.
So with Fleury versus Kakinen, Fleury, I got him ranked as the 3rd highest projected on the slate. He's 2nd highest in salary on both sites. So DraftKings, Fanduel, they're saying the same thing. Grubauer is the highest on the site again, going up against Arizona. Kakinen does have good numbers. He has a good discount from Fleury if you want to go that way in GPP to hedge. But if you look at his season, 66% win percentage. I mean, he's got 8 wins out of 12 starts. Fleury, 80% win percentage. That's amazing. He's definitely with Leonard coming in last year and taking his starting job from him, he has absolutely put the work in. So if we jump over to tiers real quick. So for the Golden Knight, we got Pacioretty in tier 1, Theodore in tier 5, and Martinez in tier 7. That's who you want to stack. Carlson and Marchessault, they're going to be your one-off guys. They really don't fit. Now, if they do change the lines up, like you were mentioning, if one of these guys slots into another into the power play 1, it's game on. Something very interesting with Martinez here. He is not on the power play, but if you go down and look at tier 7, he's the only person really on the slate other than Broden over here on the right. There's only 2 guys on this slate that are not on power play. his block shots are incredible. He's the new Alex Edler. He's averaging 4 to 5 block shots a game. He's not doing much shooting, but he is getting in on some scoring. I mean, he's hit 5 points, 80%, 8 out of 10 games, his last 10. His projection is there. So for a guy that's not on the power play, if you're looking for a cash floor guy, I think he's kind of priced down on the main slate still in the Classic. That's a good way to look if you're just looking for somebody with some floor. His upside's not going to be there, but he's going to bring consistent numbers.
Yeah, I definitely like Martinez more on FanDuel because he's only 3,800. Being 51 on DraftKings, I don't think you have to go there, but for
3,800.
Yeah.
Oh my! What are they doing?
I mean, last week he was 41. I think he had a game where he only had like 4 blocks, and they put him down to 38. And I was like, I'm playing him every single slate that he's on if he's going to stay.
That's ridiculous.
And that just brings like a great floor for cash. Like, yeah, like if I'm looking here at Minnesota, last 10 games they're shooting 31.5 shots on goal a game, and now that if he gets that extra shift or two, if Pietrangelo does miss the game, then that just brings more chances for him to get a couple more block shots, and he might get a little bit more involved in the offense. I think they might, if he does miss, maybe he gets some power play 2 time. Obviously, we'll have to kind of wait and see what they do. I'm assuming we probably won't get that news until pregame skate.
I think it's been one of the cheaper guys. I'm not 100%, but I don't think when one of Theodore or Pietrangelo misses, I don't think it's Martinez that gets the bump.
The advantage here is, like you guys said, it's the first game of the night, and it's weirdly enough the only game starting at that time. So we don't have to worry about wondering mid-slate, late slate. We're going to know in the morning skate. You're still going to have to make the last-minute change, but it's going to be before lock.
Yeah, and at least
it won't mess with your build that much or at all, really, because you don't have one yet that's finalized.
Yeah, I mean, the game that Fleury didn't start last week, they were the last game of the slate, and it's like I think we got that news after every other game already locked that Fleury wasn't starting, and I was like, oh, great, now all my lineups that I have Fleury, I have to go to the backup because I'm definitely not playing Martin Jones against Vegas. And, I mean, he got 16 points. It's not awful for a backup, but the way that FanDuel prices up the backups is the same as the starters. It's kind of ridiculous. Luckily,
DraftKings does the same thing mostly.
Well, they didn't do that until this year. Like last year, they never did that. It was the backup was always way cheaper, but then I think with like all the coronavirus stuff, I think they were like, well, I guess we never know now, so we'll just keep them at the same price. I think it's kind of for like an easy pivot if like a late news happens where the starter doesn't play and you don't have to worry about, or like the backup is projected all day and then the starter starts and you can just switch it and it doesn't hurt you. Like
if DraftKings pricing was as tight as it was last year when they went to the new scoring system, people would be out of their minds. I think they have loosened it up a bit for what you said. There's too many chances, postponements, late news. Guys aren't skating as much. I mean, the practices are there. We're getting morning skates. We're getting better info than we did during the bubble playoffs. But yeah, like I said, I mean, if you had to make last-minute pivots with last year's tighter salaries, I think people would be losing their minds over it.
Yeah, they probably did it just to like kind of save themselves from getting all the hate mail because they get enough as it is, and they just get even more.
They get enough over NBA. But.
Oh, I know, especially last week. But yeah, good thing we're not talking about NBA, right?
Yeah. Just one more note with the correlation maker. So with Stone being in question, my one concern with Pacioretty is if you can go to the Vegas tab. Yeah. So my one concern here.
Hold on. There we go.
Yeah. Pacioretty, 73% of his points from scoring involved Mark Stone. That's insanely high correlation. So that could be a minus to Pax if Stone does not play.
Yeah, Stone has definitely a passer mentality first, not really the shooter. Pacioretty is. So, like, if you put another guy who say, like I do feel like Tuch would get the bump. I mean, he's so good right now. How could you not give him power play 1 and line 1 if there's no Mark Stone? And I feel like he would take away from Pacioretty's floor for sure, because he would be he would shoot the puck more than Stone would on that line, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's definitely something to take in consideration. And since I brought up Martinez, his best correlations are going to be Pacioretty and apparently right now Chandler Stevenson. He has 27% correlation with Stone, but you take Stone out of that, that's going to change up. But I mean, if you are going to play Pax, Martinez, if you need a punt, like I said, that's a good floor, and he does have 36% correlation there. So that's going to at least be some kind of correlated pair you can use in that situation.
Yeah, so at least we'll know that news before the slate locks. But we'll get moving on to the next game. If you guys don't have anything else on the Minnesota side, I think we covered Vegas pretty intently.
Yeah, as far as Minnesota for tiers, I brought this up before we went live. All of their players are crammed in tier 6, 7, and 8. I really wouldn't touch any of these guys for tiers just because you're going up against Marc-Andre Fleury. If you did want to get a little squirrely in GPP, Zuccarello, Eriksson Elk, and Fiala, I would maybe rotate those 3. I wouldn't touch the guys in tier 8 unless we're getting into a situation where you just need to rotate, like you decide to rotate tier 8 and you want to take every single person in that tier. That's probably the only way I'm touching the 3 of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, going against Fleury, they only scored 1 goal last time. I mean, their top line is running pretty hot right now with Greenway, Eck, and Foligno, but I don't really remember exactly who they played in the last 5 games, but I'm not a guy to target Fleury really in anything.
This is just perfect GPP game theory scenario. We're going to sit here and we're going to talk about Fleury probably being the best goalie on the slate and Minnesota probably not having much of a chance to win this game. It's a hedge. If you're mass multi-entering, if you're doing 150 lineups, put 10 lineups, maybe 5 lineups, stack Minnesota, see what happens. They're your throwaway lineups out of that batch of 150.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll get on to the next game, though. If you guys have any questions about something that we've already talked about, throw it in the comments, and we can always circle back to it at the end. But the next game we have St. Louis Blues at San Jose Sharks. The Blues are implied 3.3 goals. The Sharks 2.8. We'll start off here with the goalies. Me personally, I'm not touching either one of these goalies. They're both terrible. I'm sure you guys probably agree with me there. But if you guys are DFS Army members already and you saw my cheat sheet, you'll see that I love the Blues tonight. I give a slight hedge to their second line in tournaments. So like they're gonna be my top stack for the Blues side. Hoffman, Shen, and Perron. They've just been great. Like Perron's been nasty in his last 5 games. I have no problem if you want to stack St. Louis 1 with Kyrou, O'Reilly, and Tarasenko. I know Tarasenko's price is still way too low on DraftKings, so you just got to plug him in your cash lineups there. But what do you think about the Blues side of this game here?
Definitely the Tarasenko's too cheap. He was only 55% owned at min price the last slate.
What?
People don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. I don't know who advises these people to do what they do. They just don't know what's going on. I don't know another way to explain it, that people just don't know what they're doing. Like that should be like 91%. If this sport was efficient, that would be like, if this was NBA, he would be 91% owned. But for whatever reason, the hockey field's just terrible, and they missed.
Well, I know there was like a little note early in the day that was saying that he probably won't play on the top line, probably won't play on the power play, and then pregame skate comes out, top line, top power play, and at that point, like he was what? What's the min on DraftKings? 3,000? 2,500. He played 16 minutes and 4 shots. It's smashing value.
Mm-hmm.
On FanDuel the other night, he was 7K. No way I was playing for 7K without knowing how he's going to be in his first game in almost 2 years. But geez, 2,500. He should have been 100% one on that slate.
Absolutely. Other options for me, like as you guys know, I'm primarily cash, so that's what I'm gonna majorly touch on. Vince Dunn's been playing good minutes. He's not really a block shot type of guy, but he does shoot the puck and does a good job with the offense. He's not a bum. I wish he's a little bit cheaper. I want to see he's around 3,500 right now. Let me double check that. Yeah, 3,600. I liked him more at the 31, 32 range, but tonight's the type of night where there's not really a ton to pay up for unless you're absolutely trying to jam McDavid, Draisaitl, and Pacioretty, and I'm not on the jam Pacioretty side, so I think you're gonna have some salary to work with. I think there's better value in that range, but 3,600 Vince Dunn could absolutely pay off. I mean, he's been playing a decent amount of games over 20 minutes with no Parayko, and I just think he's a good hockey player too, honestly. And Skindell is not amazing, so Vince Dunn should be taking the majority of the shots for that defensive pairing.
On FanDuel, he's 3,800 on FanDuel.
Love it.
Well, I mean, there are two guys I like better than him. I don't mind if you want to throw him in there, but if you have him in there with the other two guys that I like, you could fit in McDavid and Draisaitl and Patrick. I mean, FanDuel is a lot easier. We'll get to, I mean, we already mentioned Alec Martinez. He's the same price, but there's one other guy I like a little bit more than him. That's only $100 more. He's in a later game, so we'll get over to that once we get to that game. But yeah, so the Blues, I kind of like Torrey Krug in cash too. He's been really consistent lately. He's 5,300 on FanDuel. It's definitely in the matchup against the Sharks. I think it's kind of a chance for an upside ceiling game for him. He's been shooting a little bit more lately, 4 and 5 in 3 of the last 4 games, getting some assists. I mean, he's still playing over 20 minutes a night, and we know the Sharks don't play any defense, and Devin Dubnyk is just awful. So I think the Blues are probably going to score like 4 or 5 goals tonight, in my opinion, just because like their power play in the last 10 games ranks 4th in the league at a 39% clip. So I definitely love that side. But is there anything on tiers with St. Louis tonight, Jim?
Yeah, so you're talking about the power play, and that's going to lead into this. So St. Louis, I have as the 4th highest projected power play as far as the implied power play goal chance. So that's their power play percentage versus the other team's penalty kill plus number of expected power play opportunities they're going to have. So we head over to the tiers. Stacks. The stacking is going to be tough. I think you need to center everything around Auto Parts Ryan O'Reilly. Perron, you can pair with them for power play 1. You can also trade out Shen and put Perron with Shen together and then add Torrey Krug in there. Hoffman and Falk, line 2 with the power play 2 correlation there. You can do Hoffman and Perron as a line 2 combination with Shen. That's a 3-man stack there. O'Reilly's my guy for cash in this tier. So if I do anything in GPP, I'm probably going to pivot around him with that first stack I talked about. And then as far as San Jose goes, while we're here, they got a nice easy 3-man stack here with Couture, Burns, and Kane. That's all you need for tiers. If you decide to go that route and hedge, you can even game stack it. You could take Couture, Burns, Kane with O'Reilly and Krug. A couple different ways you can work it out there. Yeah,
I mean, for me, like if you're stacking St. Louis, you have to play Perron in that tier 2. Mm-hmm. I think I have a grudge against O'Reilly, just because he doesn't do anything peripheral wise. Like his shots finally are like coming up a little bit, but I think getting Tarasenko back is going to help him a lot, especially in the assist department.
It should, yeah.
Not his peripheral department. If anything, it's going to hurt him more.
Yeah.
I will say his point upside's definitely looking better with Tarasenko, but he's the type of he could get you a 3-point game and score you 18 points on DraftKings with 3 assists and then the 3-point bonus and then nothing else from it. Like that is very much in his range of outcomes on any slate.
Yeah, and like for tiers, I don't mind playing O'Reilly. Kind of like on FanDuel anyway, like their top line is cheaper than their second line, except Mike Hoffman. But I also like Mike Hoffman has been terrible this year. He hasn't really gotten it going, but he's been down the third line with like nobody that's good. So I think him getting moved up with Shen and Perron, who've kind of been rolling lately, I think that's going to help him a lot. And I don't mind him like as a one-off either, because I think he's like 4,800 over on FanDuel. So he's cheap, and I think they're going to score a ton between both their line. He's 51 on FanDuel. I don't hate it. But like I love Shen and Perron here. And with only really like you have McDavid and Draisaitl to pay up for at center, and Shen's probably my third favorite after those two guys for a massive discount. But yeah, I mean, I love that side. I love the blue side of this game. But I kind of have interest in San Jose. What do you guys? Anything stand out to you with the Sharks?
I think they have some potential. I mean, I think actually Vander Kane for the tier slate is actually in a good position here with who's in his tier. I mean, he's still got to go. I mean, look at what he's done over his last 10 games. I mean, 90% consistency. His shots are up. He's scoring. We got a good projection for him. He's still hit and miss. He can still easily get you a 0. He's on a good streak right now, though. Mm-hmm. So, and like you said, it's Ville Husso. I don't have much faith in St. Louis goaltending. So I think this is just another potential high-scoring game from both sides. I think St. Louis should win this game, but I think San Jose is going to be able to stay in it.
I think St. Louis is going to crush them at 5v5. I don't know if you guys have seen the line combos for the Sharks, but Timo Meier misses the night. It's pretty bad. I'll say that if the Sharks score tonight, if the Sharks score a lot of goals, it's because Husso sucked, not because they got 39 shots on goal. It'd be like 25 shots, and Husso pooped the bed and allowed 5 of them. They're not going to be able to break down St. Louis at 5v5 tonight with us. They're bad. Especially if Timo misses. They have one okay line if Timo misses tonight. The bottom 9 are terrible. Well, let me get it pulled up because they got I believe it's Balsers, Meyer, and Leonard, Dylan Grambrel, and then Ryan Donato, Patrick Marleau, and John Leonard, and Matthew Neto, John Kelman, and Curtis Gabriel. If Timo misses, oh my gosh, they're not going to be able to do anything tonight, in my opinion. The only way they're getting there is if Husso just does not want to try in the net tonight. Because he's not going to try to stop a lot.
That's the angle I'm going with. Because, I mean, Ville Husso, 6 starts this season. He's got a save percentage of .898 and averaging 3 goals against per start. So those are He's winning games. He's winning games because the team's scoring for him. He's the opposite of some of these other guys we're going to talk about at the bottom, where Gibson has better numbers than Ville Husso, but Anaheim doesn't score any goals, so his record is horrible.
Yeah, can someone get John Gibson out of there, please? That man deserves way better.
I know he needs to get out of Anaheim.
Like he's elite. Like if he was on like a high market team that was good, you'd be hearing about him as like the best goaltender in the league. Honestly, like since he plays for Anaheim, there's no love.
Yeah, through like the first month of the season, he had the best save percentage, and he still had a losing record.
No one's on Vasilevsky's level right now, to be fair. I know he's not even on the slate, but he's so good I'll even talk about him. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be so hard to beat Tampa Bay. He's so good.
He is so good. I'd say one thing with the Sharks that I do like, I love their top line in tournaments. They're going to be lower owned because I don't know why, but every slate that Jordan Binnington or Ville Husso are on, they're like 35, 40% owned, and neither one of them are doing that good this year. And I'm on the opposite side of that. Every time they start, I'm like, I'm not playing chalk Jordan Binnington. I don't care if he's 5,000, even though it's not possible. But if he was 5,000, I still want to play him. Like he has not looked good this year.
I would, but I'm a donkey.
Why you play everyone that's cheap?
That's why I don't play FanDuel, so I don't have to deal with these things.
The completely childish meltdown he had a few games ago too. I mean, that's just telling me like as much weight as that city put on his shoulders during that cup run, as great as he played then, I don't know, something about him. I think he's just not fully mentally matured enough yet where he's letting too many distractions get to him and he's not totally focused on the game. I mean, I've seen this hundreds, especially with the Flyers. I mean, look at all the goalies they got on the wall behind me. I've seen dozens of Flyers goalies have monster, amazing rookie seasons, and then they were the worst goalie in the league in their sophomore year. I think Bennington's probably going through the same thing right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Husso still, especially if Timo Meier misses, I think he's still going to get some ownership, but there's really no reason to go there. Not even in tournaments. Like I have other guys who I like more on my cheat sheet that maybe have a little bit more risk, like if Meier misses, because if they can stop the top line of San Jose, then, I mean, he could shut them out. It's definitely possible. They're other than their top line, they're not good. So it's definitely possible, but I'm not taking
it. Bad. It's bad. That bottom nine even with Timo on that line, it's still not an amazing bottom nine. But like without him, you could argue that's the worst bottom nine out of all teams in the league right now.
The thing is, though, too, it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't expect San Jose to win this game unless Husso has a complete meltdown and something goes terribly wrong for San Jose. But you don't need to win the game to have a stack make value and winning a GPP. I mean, you can easily see Kane get one goal, 1 assist, something like that, pair up with Burnsy getting a goal and an assist. I mean, San Jose only scores 2 goals, but they get you enough of something, enough shots, enough points to get you over the line in a GPP.
And I think they're cheap enough. Well, they're not. I wouldn't say cheap enough because Kane's 67 on FanDuel. Him and Burns are probably going to be low owned just because of their pricing. But like Couture, he's 76. Nobody's going to play him at 76 when Draisaitl, I think, is $300 more. And no one's going to play LeBanc. Nobody plays him ever anyways.
No.
But he's on FanDuel, he's 4,700. So like that's going to be a very low owned stack if you want to throw their top line in a couple tournament lineups. I don't really mind that at all.
I do like Jim's point of the fact that they could score 2 goals and they come from the same guys, and that's nice because your exposure tonight is the first line, or maybe you'll add Brent Burns to it. You're not touching anything other than that anyway. So the nice thing is if you play it and they score 2 goals, you're probably going to guess it right because those 4 guys have like the best odds of being on the score sheet.
And that's what it comes down to. They really, you know which guys are going to score on that team. If anybody else scores, it's a fluke. I mean, pull up the correlation matrix for San Jose. This is kind of nuts because they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 6 players with 0 goals in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, I'll show that 1 second here.
And then 1, 2. They have 6 players with 0 goals, and they have another 5 players that have 2 or less goals. And then you got Couture with 12 and Kane with 9. I mean, that's where they're scoring as Burnsy 5 goals, 8 assists. I mean, you called it with that. They got 4 guys that do their scoring. Like I said, they don't have to win the game as long as the scoring is concentrated. So,
yeah, I like that, especially because you can just throw that.
It's the same reason we still stack Ottawa. Nobody expects Ottawa to win.
I expect Ottawa to win nowadays. I want to be unknown that I'm on the early boat that I don't think that team's the worst team in the league anymore, really anywhere close to the worst.
No, definitely not.
But they're not the Ottawa Senators from 2 years ago that we all know. This is a team with some actual talent on it.
This is a team that's starting to find their potential, that they're missing some key pieces that they could actually be competitive if they come up with if they fix their defense and goaltending situation.
I agree 100% with that take.
Cam, I was on Ottawa before you were, just for the record. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I'll give him that too. Because I'm an honest guy. Mdell was on Ottawa before me. I'll give him that. I'm still early too, so it's all right. But he was there first. I'll give it to him.
Hey, I stacked Ottawa 3 that night where Baderson scored 2 goals, and I almost took a tournament down, and that was the night that Colorado just totally shit the bed. That was really frustrating. But
against the Sharks too.
I know.
That's the worst when you do have that low-owned stack that just goes off and then the rest of your lineup just doesn't pick up the slack. Yeah. That's a kick in the nuts.
That night I stacked Ottawa's power play with Colorado 1, and I had Kachuk. He was the one who didn't get on the point column. He still got 8 points with his shots and blocks. And then I had Baderson and Stetzel and Shabbat who all got a point or 2 points. And I was like, yeah, I was in second place going into the last game. And then I had the big three of Colorado, and they didn't do anything. And I was like, what the heck? I could have won. I think I ended up with like $12, and I finished like 10th or 12th. But I was like, no, I had it in the bag.
Yeah, no, that's a rough one. That's a rough beat. I'll give you that. I sympathize.
I'll play that lineup again.
I got to step away for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
All right. Oh boy, where's he going?
Finally, guys, no more talk about the tiers. We're all over here. I'm playing.
One more note I do want to say on the Sharks is I don't mind if you want to play Erik Karlsson. It kind of looks like he's starting to come around.
He got priced up on DK. I would agree with that one slate ago, but this slate he's too expensive for me. But if on Fanduel he's still too cheap, I get it. But DraftKings, you missed the boat on the cheap Karlsson wave, I think.
He's 45 on FanDuel, so if you want to play him instead of Burns, that opens up a little bit more salary. He's starting to hit his stride a little bit.
Yeah, I was watching that Sharks game where they were playing the Vegas one where Vegas shut him out, and he looked like he was kind of like opening stuff up again, creating lanes, and not really just looking like a center block out there like he was at first. He looks like he's getting his legs back a little bit, but his price is just I'm not. If you would have played him a slate or two ago, I would have liked it, but let me see. I think he's like 39 now or so. Yeah, 4,200. Nah, when he was in the mid threes, I liked it, but 42, you're paying for that Erik Karlsson now. You're not getting any value off of that.
Yeah, and actually, the next game that we're gonna go to was kind of a team that we were just talking about. Go to the Ottawa Senators at the Edmonton Oilers. Ottawa is projected 2.6. Edmonton 4. I'm sure we're all on the same page with this game. But we'll start with the center. But we'll start with the center side. I do want to say they're on a back-to-back. They traveled to Edmonton, and they played an overtime game last night. So I don't love them as much as I would have if they was just like a normal slate and they didn't play last night. But I still don't have a problem going to their top power play unit. They're cheap. Brady Tkachuk, I don't know if he leads the league in shots on goal, but it's got to be pretty close. He's got 117 this season. So I like him. I like him to shoot. He'll still shoot a bunch. Like I think he gets fired up to play against McDavid. So I think he's still gonna keep putting the puck on the net. Thomas Chabot, I don't hate him. Stetzel and Baderson on top power play. The goalies, it's still Matt Murray projected, but I doubt he starts, and we'll have to wait. Luckily that game's at 9. So we might get the news before it starts. But, I mean, either way, we're still playing Edmonton everywhere. But anything on the Ottawa side besides that power play that you might get interested in for tournaments?
I'd be interested in the line match tonight because with Draisaitl or with McDavid, I assume that their coach isn't going to put that up against Tkachuk's line, I would imagine. So I would think like those lines. Let me pull up Ottawa here. Let me see if I have some sort of educated guess on who I would feel would be facing the McDavid line. So it definitely won't be the Tkachuk one because they're not going to want to play them against their best line. They're going to want the McDavid line out there against the worst. So like I would for sure like the Tkachuk line because the bottom 9 of Edmonton's kind of in San Jose Shark territory where it's just like why is this so bad? So there's definitely some value there like from GPPs for me. Dadonov's cheap again and up on DraftKings where if you have the salary, I don't mind them in cash. But that's as I always talk about, if you have the salary and you need to play him, don't put him in there and build around him. But if he ends up in your build, I could live with it. Batherson, that third line of Norris, Stützle, and Batherson, I definitely would like that more for the GPP side because like all of them are kind of priced up out of their starting spot from the season. So not anyone's going to be on them tonight, especially because of the back-to-back. But that's something I'd only be touching in GPPs. And outside of that, I don't mind Chabot on FanDuel. I mean, like you have to spend salary somewhere on there. So, but on DK tonight, I would just rather take either Nurse or Burry in that same price range. And honestly, I'd probably like Brent Burns more too because he might see some block shots tonight.
Yeah, and I mean with Ottawa. Edmonton's penalty kill the last 10 games hasn't been like all that great. So they might score a power play goal or two. They're not like a top line that I would try to stack around. But if you want to throw in a secondary line, they're going to be low owned. Everyone's just going to think that Edmonton's going to smash them. I think their first meeting this year, I think that was like the 7-6 game. So they can score against them. And it's not like Koskinen is the best goalie in the league. So he's going to allow some goals. But if you're not like if you're stacking Ottawa, just stack up like their top power play line and move on from there.
I can agree with that.
And then Jim, is anyone on Ottawa even in tiers? Is it just Tkachuk?
You got Brady, Tkachuk, and Chabot. So they were actually the only two that I would stack if you wanted to try to get a piece of that side of the game. Batherson is in there in T8. I don't really know if you would want to touch him or not to add him as a power play stack in there. Brady, I'm actually taking in cash just because I think he's hands down one of the best guys in that tier, in that particular tier.
You want to throw up the tier sheet real quick? Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, if I'm not going Connor in tier one though, he until he starts being more consistent, I'm just avoiding him in cash until he gets out of this funk that they're in, and they might easily do it tonight. I think they're going to do it tonight. Don't look at me like that, Cam. So really, there would be no reason for me to take RNH. But you look at Brady's numbers, the floor's there, and he's got the upside. So.
Yeah, he's a peripheral god.
And then going against Mikko, like you said, I mean Mikko, I think Mikko's a decent goalie. I just think that team struggles with defense. He's not getting the help he should, and he might not be on the top of his game right now. So he's definitely susceptible to a team like Ottawa that can bust out big scoring games out of nowhere and then still lose.
The problem with Edmonton's defenders is they're all so offensive minded. So sometimes they kind of get caught up and like might not get back, and then they just allow a goal. With that tier though, with the Tkachuk tier, I do want to note that like it'd be Tkachuk and then Perron for me in cash. Like RNH moving down to the second line. Who's even centering that line? RNH is centering with PRV and Ennis. I mean, the only way he's going to probably do anything is on the power play. Is in my opinion. Those two wings aren't good.
This is a case, and this is a perfect example of why Draisaitl and McDavid do not play on the same line together every night. Is because now look at the rest of that team with this shakeup. You went from a team that had depth scoring to a team that they just front loaded everything on line one and hope to get in hopes to get a spark.
I do like Harvey. I don't think he's a bum, but literally everyone else that's not Leon, Connor, Nugent, and sometimes Yamamoto. Yeah, they're all bad. They're all.
Yeah, and I mean, so we'll just get into the Edmonton side. Like we said, they shuffled up their lines and they got Draisaitl with McDavid and Yamamoto on the top line. They're gonna be so high owned, and like Yamamoto is so cheap. I don't know what he is on DraftKings, but he's like 47 on FanDuel.
Yeah, he's 39 on DK.
Yeah, they're going to be so high owned, and that's where probably 90% of their scoring is going to come from. And then like Barry and Nurse, top D pair, they're probably going to be involved too. I'm putting in McDavid and Draisaitl in cash and kind of just moving on from center. Hopefully that putting them together sparks their offense.
That line looked great the last game. They were churning. This Yamamoto, McDavid, Draisaitl line, they really couldn't be contained in that Calgary game.
Yeah, and I mean they played 18% of the game together, so they probably changed it up in the second period at some point, I'm sure. One guy that nobody's gonna play, and like this is a strictly kind of a floor play, is he kind of sparked my eye with his blocks, is Adam Larson. I wouldn't play him in cash. I mean, if that's all you have left, then sure. But he's got.
What is he on FanDuel?
I think he's like 37.
Oh no, that's great. Larson, listen,
35.
Right, listen. Larson's one of those guys in real life who is a trash can on skates. Okay, he is not a good hockey player, but for fantasy. That he's bad, which means he's in his own zone constantly, which really raises his block shot floor. And then those games where he gets like 4 block shots and an assist, if he could even just 4 block shots, he gets value. But with the assist, it's just like, wow. I can't believe this
Well,
works with how bad he is, but it does on a very
Yeah.
consistent basis.
I mean, he's 3,500 and Ottawa's shooting on almost 33 shots a game. So like I mean, if you only have 3,500 left, I don't hate it. For a D-man or utility. There's another guy who's $100 less for utility if you're kind of going back and forth with that. But is there anything else on this game? Kind of running a little long, so I kind of want to try to move it along a little bit.
Barrie and Nurse are both great plays tonight. I love both of them. I like Barrie more for the upside, and I like Nurse more for the floor.
Jim, anything with you for tiers or anything?
Yeah, so I just want to point out, if you want to check the power play real quick, Edmonton's power play, we got them looking pretty good tonight. So that does still keep RNH in play if you want to stack as far as tiers goes. We see this a lot. You got McDavid and Draisaitl. Obviously, these are the two guys you want to stack together. You can't. You physically cannot stack them because they're in the same tier. So this is a situation where Connor is most likely going to be the highest owned player tonight on this slate for tiers. Sprinkle in a little Draisaitl. Take your same McDavid Barrie stack, or your Barrie or your McDavid RNH Barrie stack, and just change them out, like maybe 10-20% of those total Edmonton stacks.
I would not split them pretty evenly, honestly, because if McDavid gets an assist, that means Leon might get the goal. Like, honestly, if they're both in the same tier, like, they're basically the same caliber play to me. So I would honestly give the edge to Leon with how many less people are going to play him.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the perfect hedge because, like you said, I mean, it's almost – I would be very shocked if either one of these guys scored tonight and the other guy wasn't involved.
Yes, same, absolutely. No, I definitely like that pivot for tiers for sure.
So, final note on that game: Edmonton's going to be the chalk of the chalk tonight. Just eat it in cash games.
Yeah.
Try to be a little different in your tournaments if you want to like stack up different guys from their power play. But like if Draisaitl and McDavid go off, you need to have them. And in cash, even if they don't go off, they're going to be 90% owned, and it's not going to hurt you. You just got to, like, if you're playing a head-to-head, and probably, I mean, most people should have both of those guys, but then just beat them in the 7 other spots. It's not impossible. But we'll get on to the next game here, and we have the Arizona Coyotes at Colorado Avalanche. Arizona projected 2.4, Colorado 3.2. Any interest in the goalies here, Cam?
That's me. Darcy's real cheap tonight. He looked good in his first game back, I think. Not really a cash play for me tonight because you just really don't need to pay down at goalie. You can there's enough value elsewhere and really not enough to pay up for it where you don't need a $7,100 goaltender. But I mean, this team is missing McKinnon and the lines are a little shaking around, so they could maybe not, come out churning. So Darcy, is like a 5% play, maybe 10% in GPBs. I don't like at the moment. Grubauer's currently my goalie in cash. What I'm guessing is going to happen, I'm just waiting to see Fleury get announced, and my guess is I probably might make the pivot over to him. But Grubauer and Fleury would definitely be my top two tonight. I like Fleury more for his save upside. Arizona's not known for really throwing it at the net a whole time. So Grubauer is more of like a win play rather than a save upside play to me.
Yeah, I'm on the same side with you. Like, I like Grubauer in cash. Just for that win upside, and I like Darcy Kemper in tournaments. The numbers might for Colorado might be inflated a little bit without McKinnon, but in their last 10 games they got 34 shots on goal a game, so like he's gonna see shots, and I think that top line's probably still gonna shoot a lot for Colorado. Honestly, I'm not even gonna talk about Arizona because I have zero interest in any of their players unless you're playing Chikrin. He's really the only guy that I'm interested in. I mean, maybe a Connor Garland if you want to go there. But Cam actually brought up to me Valerie Nichushkin. Let everyone know what you were telling me about him before we started the pod here.
He's getting the bump tonight with Rantanen's looking to be centering the first line, and Landeskog's on his wing along with Nichushkin. He's been priced tonight. He's looked good in the last few games, honestly. Like, I don't know if you guys all played last year, but there was a stretch of time where he was like under 3,500 for about a week and a half, and he was just consistently crushing it at that price. And he's been playing 16, 17 minutes a game since McKinnon's been out, and that alone should make him more than min price, let alone the fact that he's on a good team and a really good line, and he is getting the PP2 time, and they do roll both. The PP1 definitely gets more, but he will get some power play time.
Yeah, and I after we had that little conversation, I threw him in as a core play for only 3,400. He's just too cheap, and you can pay up for the studs at wing, and you can almost pay up for studs at center, sorry, and you can almost pay up for another wing too. But he definitely gets a huge boost. Like, he'll probably still see 18, 19 minutes tonight on the high end, which the chances of him scoring, because it's against Kemper, I don't love it, but like for 3,400, he just needs like.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at that point. I wish it wasn't.
It opens
Kemper.
up a
I
lot.
agree with you, but it does. Yeah, it doesn't. It lets you do whatever you want. Really, he's the best. He's the best punt on the slate to me, and I don't find it to be particularly close.
I like that a lot. Yeah. I do. Maybe Rantanen and Landeskog, playing with him too could boost him. I still think they could score. I don't know, 2-3 goals maybe. Like, it's not like Kemper is stopping everything, but he is really good. So it's not like I'm going to be fully stacking against him everywhere. But if you want to throw in like 10% of a Colorado one stack with either Girard or Taves, I give the edge to Girard a little bit because he's kind of been more involved with the scoring. But kind of other than that, I'm not really too interested in this game.
I definitely like Colorado too a little bit, not so much for because I think their upside is amazing, but more so because Burakovsky and Brandon Saad aren't uber expensive. And while I would never actually pay $7,000 for Nazem Kadri with no Nathan McKinnon, I think you could argue that he could be worth $7,000. I mean, he's gonna play 20 minutes this game. He's getting the power play one, and he's just a real underrated guy for some reason. I think everyone just has that like he's that bad guy mentality on him, like he was in Toronto, and they forget that he's actually a pretty damn good hockey player.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I'm on the Kadri train, and then he kind of didn't do anything, but go right back to him. They're going to be low owned, I think, anyways, because Edmonton's just going to take up all the ownership like across the board. Jim, is there anything in tiers on this game at all?
So Cog and Rantanen have really good correlation. I mean, obviously, Landeskog correlates 63% of his points involve Rantanen. You mentioned Kadri. Through the power play alone, 27% of Kadri's points come through Rantanen, 22% of Rantanen's points coming through Kadri. So there's good power play stacking correlation there with them. We jump over to the tier slate. So you're going to have Rantanen, Cog, and Kadri if you want to add them. I would definitely, any Colorado stacking you do, I'm definitely going to want Rantanen and Cog. You can throw in a sprinkle of Kadri there. I mean, he's going to fit perfectly in there. Toes and Girard, I don't have much interest down there. I would keep this as a top-heavy stack here and then worry about getting some other teams in the bottom if you're going to stack that way. As far as Grubauer being the best goalie on the slate, projected best goalie on the slate, and that's coming down to Arizona's numbers. Arizona, you got Arizona here only scoring 2.63 goals a game so far this season, and Colorado's only giving up 2.5 goals a game this season. So it's going to be pretty hard for – I don't know. I mean, I really don't see Makar as a defensive player and McKinnon is a defensive player. I mean, Colorado's offense is hurting. I don't think their defense is hurting to the point where Arizona has much chance of winning this game, other than Colorado just not being able to score at all for whatever reason.
Colorado, fully healthy, has the most talent in the league. Is that common sense to everybody at this point? Like, not y'all. Yeah. I mean, like the hockey world. Is that a consensus opinion now? Because it's a fact. They're so loaded.
Yeah. I mean, but the plays I've seen Makar make are amazing. He should be a winger.
Oh, I know. He's nasty.
He's a mini Brett Burns.
He is. I definitely agree. I'm going to look at some of our questions here. Someone asked, I have a question. I have 69% Connor McDavid. Is that too much in 150 lineups? No?
I think that's always too high for that many lineups, just because of the volatility of the sport.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would rather
60%. I consider all in for NHL.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. It's too much, just because like I love him tonight. Believe me, no one loves Connor McDavid more than Big Cam 3000 on DraftKings. Okay, if he's on the slate, he's in my lineup. But like when you're playing him at 70%, you're basically committing to, hey, I think he's gonna hit 70% of the time, and no, he's not gonna hit 70% of the time. It's no.
I do want to say, like, because the next comment said, like, Fanduel specifically. I'll
take it.
I think it might be a little too much just because, like we said, the volatility. Joey Decor just got confirmed for Ottawa, by the way. So he, on Fanduel at center, there's really not a whole lot to pay up for besides him and Draisaitl. But, like, what I said in Slack earlier is, you're going to have to take a huge stand. Like, either you're going to be way over the field on Edmonton or you're going to be way under. Like, don't be with the field on them tonight.
If I had, like, say 70%, but, like, I didn't want to be too underweight on, I feel like at that point, like, if I have 70, I might as well have 100% to me at that point. So having 70, I think you're better off cranking it down to 40, 35 maybe, and trying your luck at some other stacks, because I mean, all you're doing at that point is committing 70% of your money to building the best Connor McDavid stack, and that's minus expected value all the way through. So I would take off some of that and try to give myself some more outs. I mean, this is hockey. Like, someone else are going to score goals tonight other than Connor McDavid. It's going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always that possibility McDavid can have one of his best games of the seasons. Somebody else just happens to have a better game than him at lower price.
Yeah,
I mean, that possibility is always there. He could have a great game, but it could be in the form of 3 assists with no goals, and somebody pops up with 2 goals, 1 assist, gets the same 3-point bonus.
Mm-hmm. If he only scores like 25 tonight, you might not even need him to win the GPP, even if he scores 25 points. Like, you might not even need him with that.
What's the price difference with him and Draisaitl on DraftKings?
It's about 1,000. I am on the train of, like, in cash, play both of them. I have no other like that. I'm locking and loading that. But yeah, McDavid's 92 and Leon's 81.
Okay, yeah, they're 800 different on FanDuel. So, but like on FanDuel, the centers, like, there's not much to pay up for. But 70% on anybody in hockey is too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion when you're getting into percentage numbers that high in GPP and hockey, I would reserve that for your punts, actually, for your low-owned guys that are just in great spot. You like your Tarasenko's that are just ridiculously underpriced, because they don't kill your lineups if they don't do anything. Yeah. You can still have them just get your 2 shots on goal, make value, and then let the rest of your lineup do the work. Whereas a guy like McDavid, you have to build your entire lineup around them. He's not a one-off.
Like
I like that logic a lot.
Like Tarasenko, when he was 2,500, I mean, you could hit the lock button on that in 150. He ain't going to kill you. He still had 4 shots. He hit value.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've seen GPP winning lineups with goalies with snowflakes with negative points. Like, hockey, like cash, there's guys you got to play. All right, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I want you to play Connor tonight, but GPPs, no, you play everyone. What's his name? Jordan Cooper. Play whoever you want.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, look at some of the guys we talked about. You can easily see Ottawa being in the winning GPP lineup tonight, and nobody from Edmonton being in there, even if Edmonton has a monster game. It's just
you can definitely see that.
If Edmonton only has 3 goals, like in GPP, like in cash, it could be 2 points from McDavid, and I'll like that. But if they only score 3 goals tonight as a team,
they're not making value.
They're not going to be the GPP winning team. I don't care if they're all from Leon and McDavid. It's not going to happen with only.
They're too overpriced for them to be in the nuts at only scoring 2 or 3 goals.
Yep, my point exactly.
All right, so we got 2 games left here. We'll probably breeze through them because The next one we got a little bit of interest in, Montreal and Vancouver. Montreal implied 3.3, Vancouver 2.7, and everyone is going to play the Tyler Toffoli smashes Vancouver narrative. He has smashed them all season, but I'm actually going to be on the side of I'm not playing many Montreal Canadiens tonight. I mean, Thatcher Demko has been outstanding in his last 4 or 5 starts. He's a really good goalie. He showed last year in the playoffs that he can stop top-tier teams. And, like, Montreal's scoring is so sporadic, it's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly who's going to score from their team. I did mention in my notes that I do like the power play unit, but, like, Toffoli's kind of priced up now. He's like 6,500 on FanDuel, so I'm not like that interested in him there. If you're stacking, then yeah, include him in your stack because he could smash them again. But like their top line's like not that great outside of Gallagher. I do like their third line a little bit because they're so cheap with Toffoli, Kanemi, and Anderson. But other than like their power play, like I wish Petrie put it on the top power play. He doesn't, but he's been great lately. So I don't mind throwing him in there. But like I just think Thatcher Demko is a really good young goalie. So I'm not really trying to force in Montreal stacks. Cam, what do you think about the Montreal side?
Yeah, for the cash side on Montreal, it's definitely basically a no-go with me on everybody. My favorite would have been Petrie, but him not being on the first power play is definitely a downgrade for me. Edmondson and Romanoff or Radulov, Romanoff, yeah, they're both a little like cheap. I could see them as punts if it came down to it, but Tyler Toffoli is way too expensive for me on DraftKings for me to ever consider playing him at that type of price. I'm not looking to play 3 centers tonight, and 2 of them are for sure going to be McDavid and Draisaitl. So like, there's really no one here from that. It's just this team would be a lot more fantasy viable if we could get better correlation in places. But this team's kind of just all over the place, like in terms of like what you're trying to get in there.
I wanted to bring that up because I believe I remember that big Toffoli game, and I believe it was Petrie and Suzuki and Armia that were there with him, and none of these guys correlate tonight. They're broken up; they're on different lines. So it's tempting to want to go back to that well because Toffoli is definitely capable of having big games. He could still easily make an impact on the third line tonight, but without being with Suzuki and Armia, it's not the same situation it was the last time they played Vancouver.
Yeah, Nick Suzuki is, I don't know if he needs to hear this, but Nick Suzuki is absolutely a way better center than Jester Kotkaniemi. Like that. Vegas messed that one up. That trade for Tatar and him and a first, second, and a third round pick. Like, was that like a cap floor thing, or were they just messed that up?
I don't know what the story with that is, but I mean, yeah,
imagine
I don't know.
Suzuki on the nice rate.
But then for Tatar, for Tatar to end up back in Montreal, they gave up Suzuki for a rental player. And I was under the impression that Montreal just didn't want Tatar anymore, and that's why he went to Vegas.
So just looking back, it was Tatar, Suzuki, and a second-round pick in 2019 for Pacioretty.
That's right.
Was the trade. So
yeah, they traded him back there.
Whatever. I mean, I love Pacioretty. He's like one of my favorite players. Obviously, like besides. But I just think on the Montreal side, with their lines kind of being all shuffled around and like scoring comes from everywhere, plus the fact that Demko's been really good, I'm not really on them all that much. Even
they're
in
just
tournament,
like not letting you like with those lines. Like it's just like that's another thing to learn about NHL DFS. Is sometimes stuff like this happens. You're just like, well, I can't. You basically feel like legally obligated not to touch it because you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like I'm like it's a guessing game at this point.
Yeah, and, even on the tier side, I'm looking at the tier stack portion of it, and just again because of what we talked about with their lines being jumbled up the way they are, there's really nothing viable there either. You can pair Toffoli with Weber and Gallagher Or no, you can't even use Gallagher because he's his own power play too. So you can get Toffoli, Weber, Suzuki as a power play one stack, or you could just play Weber with Gallagher if you want to go the line one route, but there's really nothing else there. It's not something I would really touch other than maybe some one-off plays just to get some exposure to those guys. And Demko, to keep the narrative going on Demko, I mean, they signed Braden Holtby as the offseason with everybody having the expectation he was going to be their new number one, and he's the backup. That's how much faith they're putting in Demko right now with the way he's been playing.
Braden Holtby sucks. That's been common knowledge for like 2 years. I cannot believe they did that signing. They should have gave Markstrom that money at that point.
I know.
Markstrom doesn't have the ring to go with it.
And for a ring that he won in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, Demko this year, he's not getting the wins really, which is kind of unfortunate. But their offense has kind of struggled. But he's still got a .913 save percentage, under 3 goals against average, and he's picked it up lately too. Like if we look in his last 10 starts, .916 save percentage, 2.5 goals against, and his last 5 starts, his save percentage is .944, and he's allowed 1.8, which is second fewest on the slate in the last 5 starts, only behind my boy Fleury. So I love playing Demko in tournaments, and that's a big reason why I'm not on Montreal, plus their line shakeup. But what do you think about the Vancouver side of this game? It kind of hurts without Elias Pettersson, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this just seems like another case of a team that does have a lot of talent offensively, and they're just not getting it together. With Pettersson out, I mean, that definitely hurts them. But then you look at his overall numbers this year: 10 goals in 26 games, 21 total points, 26 games. They're good numbers. They're not the numbers that, I don't know. Something just to me just doesn't seem like he's having the season he's capable of that he showed off in previous years.
There's one guy I'm interested in on the Vancouver side, and that's Alex Edler. I played him like every slate last year. Hear me out, Cam. Don't give me that eye roll. I see that.
I'm definitely yawning. I'm sorry. I definitely did not roll. Like, I'll watch your balls, but I would never roll my eyes at you guys.
Yeah, he's been picking it up lately. He's 3,800 on FanDuel. He's getting more blocks. He's shooting it a lot more. Like he's got 17 blocks in his last 5 games. For 3,800, between him and Martinez being that cheap, I'd say that's a solid floor. Like Montreal still is probably going to shoot a bunch tonight, so I think he's going to have good shots at getting some blocks. He's thrown in a couple assists in the last 5 games. So if they're able to score, like Carey Price, he's good. He's been good recently, but he can still be a little leaky. So I don't mind if you want to throw him in for value. But other than that, on the Vancouver side, I'm kind of not really touching any of them. And I like both these goalies for tournaments a lot.
Maybe one of these podcasts I won't have to talk about this guy anymore. I swear, every single one I have to bring him up being viable. Travis Hamonick's finally showing us the upside at his cheap price. I wasn't getting there at first, and I was pounding everyone's head. You guys are probably like, what's he thinking? The last 2 games, I think he had 1 shot on goal and 4 blocks, and then one after that, he had 4 shots on goal, 1 block, and his minutes have trended up each time. He's 2,800. Montreal is definitely a team that fires the puck a lot, and they just kind of take their shots. So I think his block shot upside tonight's good. And while they don't really add anything of value in real hockey, he does take a lot of shots from the point that just get rebounded out and ruin the play. But hey, those get you fantasy points, so he does that quite a good bit.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy that's barely above min salary that has not had a 0 in his last 20 games. I mean, if you look at it, if you want to pull up the screen grab of the RS, he has not had a 0 in 20 games. And 65% of the games he's cracking over 5 points, and that's smashing value at that point. So, I mean, he's definitely – I mean, that puts him in cash safe territory at that price range, and definitely somebody you want to sprinkle in your GPP lineups.
Yeah, he's locked loaded in my cash lineup tonight.
What does Edler look like? I don't know what his price is on DraftKings.
He's like 43. I like him on FanDuel at that price. but not
Yeah.
at 43 on DraftKings.
Edler and Harmonic are almost the same price, 39 to 35, but he had a big increase on DraftKings with 47. And go over to
what's
CL.
Edler's consistency last 20 or so?
Has not gotten a zero either, but he's not producing the goals, so it's still shot and block floor. So with that price, it's still a little tough because at least last year he was getting more blocks, I think, last year, but he was also producing on the power play as well.
And
So
now
Quinn Hughes hurt Edler. Quinn Hughes definitely hurt Edler's ceiling, and honestly, probably floor too, because I feel like that probably takes away Edler's minute upside.
And I have to retract my previous statement because I was shitting on Pettersson a little bit. His number's been actually really good. He just kind of hit a streak right before he got hurt. His last 5 was looking pretty decent. 5 goals in 5 games. So
I think their problem is like Hughes can move the puck, but like Edler and Schmidt, like I feel like that's more of like a defensive shutdown pairing rather than offensive driving pairing. And then you have Jordy Penn and Tyler Myers, and that's not very good. So I think they need another guy who can move the puck back there. I like Hamonic for like fantasy purposes, but I mean I don't really feel like he adds a ton of value to like the team's offense.
Yeah. Anything else on this game, or you want to just move on to the last one here?
No.
Yeah, that's it. Travis Hamonic, lock and load. Who's ready for the flame emoji with 7.1 DraftKings points? I know I am. Who doesn't love the flame emoji? Oh, that flame emoji is beautiful, guys.
It is very nice.
As long as you have 6 or 7 of them in a row in your lineup.
That's true. We'll get to the last game. Los Angeles Kings at Anaheim Ducks. Kings implied 2.9, Ducks 2.6. It seems like the first game and the last game have the lowest combined totals. Both teams projected the same. I would say with a big upgrade to the Kings goaltending with Peterson started. I like him in tournaments. He's cheap. I want to say I want to play John Gibson, but it's so hard when Anaheim's not scoring. So like he really needs to win. But the Kings do shoot a ton. So if you want to throw in a 6,700 John Gibson on Fanduel and in GPPs, I don't mind that. But you're hoping that the Kings just shoot a ton.
I think there's a good chance that the GPP winning goalie comes out of this game. I think there's probably a 25-30% chance that one of these two goalies is in the GPP winning lineup because neither team is scoring much. Gibson has better numbers than some of the other goalies we've talked about tonight, but he has the worst record out of all of them because Anaheim's not scoring at all. Pettersson, I think, is a very, very good up-and-coming goalie. I've liked him for a few years now. I mean, I think you guys know that I like jumping on young goalies that everybody's overlooking. He's definitely been one of them, and he's backed it up. So I was actually not happy to hear that Quick was hurt, and that's the reason he's not playing. But I was actually hoping, I think Matt was as well, that Pettersson would get the start tonight because this is a perfect opportunity for him going up a team that can't score at all.
If you're paying down a goalie tonight at DraftKings, it's absolutely Calvin Pettersson or bust for me. I like it. I'm okay with playing him in cash. If you can pay up a goalie tonight, it's not going to be hard if you want the safety that you feel with Grubauer. But I really like Calvin Pettersson, and 7,500 is that's too cheap for what he should be. I mean, he's excellent. He's excellent.
Yeah, I can agree with all that. Especially like I love Pettersson. He's great. He's going to be a good goalie in this league if he gets on like a team that's going to score. I mean, the Kings though, I have interest in their power play. Like the Ducks penalty kill hasn't been that great, and their power play unit is one of the best in the leagues actually. Like on the season, they got a 25% power play. Last 10, they're at 26, almost 27. So I like going there. The one guy I'd leave off is Kempe. I just don't think he's that great. But Kopitar's been amazing, especially with the assists on the power play. Drew Doughty, he's old. He's older, but he's like a stud. I don't know. I feel like he's just always involved. Like he hasn't really lost a ton of speed. Dustin Brown's a sniper. I didn't realize how old Dustin Brown was. Like he's in his mid-30s, I think. And I did not know that.
Right?
I think so. Yeah, or he might be 36. I did not realize that.
He's been around a while.
I don't mind throwing a Iaflalo in there, either in the stack, but I'm not really looking like if I'm not playing them in cash, obviously. But in tournaments, I do like the Brown, Kopitar, Doughty on FanDuel side for tournaments. And then if you want to throw in that fourth guy, you can throw in Iaflalo. I would do that. But yeah, this game is kind of like a stay away for me. I'll go with the Duck side, and then I'll get your guys' input on both the offenses here. If you look at Rickard Rakell's numbers lately, he's got 9 points in his last 5 games with 20 shots. FanDuel did a good job at pricing him up to 5,800. So especially with Pettersson starting for the Kings, there's no way I'm playing him at that price. But Comtois, he's still cheap. He's got 19 shots and blocks in his last 5 games for 3 points. I don't hate it as like a last resort option at 4,300. And if you want to stack them, I kind of like the Comtois, Getzlaf, Rakell, Fowler stack. You get a little bit of line 1 correlation. You get power play 2 correlation with Comtois and Fowler, and then you get the power play 1 correlation with Getzlaf and Rakell. Other than that, on this game, it's kind of a goalie or move on unless you're making like 100 lineups. Cam, what do you think about offenses in this one?
Thank God Rakell's priced that much on FanDuel. I'm getting real tired of either like 8 to 22% Rickard Rakell every night because he keeps saying the mid to low 4s and optimizers keep spitting them out for everybody. I can't. I mean, he's viable once again at 45. If it was quick, I'd like him a lot more. But like my love for Peterson tonight. Sorry if I'm butchering the name. Definitely is a huge downgrade to all of Anaheim to me. Fowler's. I don't really like Fowler at 39. And Shattenkirk's at 32 is an okay fight. I would definitely be playing him over Fowler if I was looking for one of those Anaheim defenders with some minute upside.
And with Lindholm out for a few weeks, Fowler's minutes haven't really gone up a ton. So, like, you're kind of losing the value there. I'd rather just play Martinez or Edler or Hamonic over Fowler tonight, especially I think he's Fowler's like in 4,000. So, yeah, he's 4,800 on FanDuel. So, like, unless you're doing a Duck stack, I'm not playing him in cash at that price when we can save $1,000 or $900 or like $1,400 on other guys. Jim, anything from you on this game?
Tiers wise, the only option is Kopitar. Kopitar stacked with either Brown or Doughty. That's all you get from this game. Anaheim's not even on the tier slate. I actually like this as a gap filler stack because if you look how tiers 4, 5, and 6 line up here, there's only one other combination, actually 2 above this that tiers 5 and 6 have correlation. That would be St. Louis and Vancouver. And I think we've already determined that we really don't want to stack 5 and 6 with St. Louis. If we're going anywhere, we're taking Perron with Shen or O'Reilly, Boser and Miller. You got some correlation there if you go to Vancouver route, but it's a nice gap filler stack because if you're taking any other stacks, most likely you're going to have either tier 4, 5, tier 4, 6, or both of those open that you can slot that in there. Goalie wise, tonight we actually have a case where we have a talented goalie with a decent defense because LA's not giving up many goals up against probably the worst offense in the league right now. So that's a more of a sweeter spot for Pettersson than some of the other goalies we talked about before in these other low-scoring games. Issue, again, being that LA still just not scoring much in front of him, so his record is worse than it should be. That's all I got for this game, though. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a boring game to watch, but I'm excited to see what Pettersson can do in this situation.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll go back around for cash goalies on the slate. If you're paying up for me on FanDuel, it's Fleury as my top option, then Grubauer, and then if you're paying down, it's Peterson, Pettersson. Those are the 3 in cash. Cam, who are you looking at? Just go over quick your cash options. Probably pretty similar.
Goalie wise.
Yeah, just goalies.
Yeah, no, they're the same goalies. The same goalies, yeah.
There's nowhere else you really have to go on the slate besides those three in cash. And like you're playing Pettersson for the cheaper to pay up for another guy. Safety wise, I think Fleury's probably one of the safest options. And then Pettersson can get those saves, and I think the Kings can get the win too.
Yeah, one of the reasons I was hoping for Pettersson to get to start tonight, I almost threw it out there as a joke that, hey, if Pettersson starts tonight, then you can stack McDavid, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, and anybody else you want from Edmonton because he'll be cheap enough to really stack that up with everybody looking at that Edmonton line one the way it's configured tonight.
Yeah, so there's a 6-game breakdown tonight. Just looking at a couple questions, and I think one that we really have to address, especially with a lot of new players coming from NBA. Renee Villa asks, so if I run the optimizing naked and take the top line, would it be decent, or am I missing a stat never played before? I would say the first thing you need to do with hockey is never just hit the optimize button and play the top lineup. Mainly because there's so much volatility in hockey that top lineup is just, it goes on projections, and like obviously our projections are great, but there's going to be some cheaper guys that have a very high projection that might not be in a great matchup. It's just because they're cheap and they might be producing a floor recently. But definitely look at both of our cheat sheets for Fanduel and DraftKings to kind of get your input there. I hand build all my cash lineups. And most of my tournaments I build too, just because I can put in exactly who I want. But this isn't NBA. Like, do not just hit the optimize button and play that top lineup.
Yeah, somebody I did have this question in Slack earlier. Somebody else asked it as well before we got onto the broadcast here. But yeah, you definitely do not just want to hit optimize. You need to limit your goalie pool. That's an important thing too, because you're going to end up with a goalie you don't want. There's just so many things you got to do. Chop has done some videos on the DS. I'm not really going to try to get too in depth on it right now because we'll be here all night. But you got to set stacks, especially in tournaments, cash games. You're going to want to hand build single entries. You're going to want to hand build like 3-entry maxes. Hand build those. When you get up into the 20 max or more MMEs, then you're going to want to take some time and set the stacks in the DS and run it again and run it again until you start getting something too close to what you want, because stacking makes or breaks a tournament. You're not going to win a tournament with just a bunch of randomly optimized one-off plays in your lineup.
I do want to say tonight, I just did it, just ran it without doing anything, and Pettersson is the goalie. I mean, in instances like tonight, I'm still not going to just run it. But the goalie that it's spitting out is a great cash option if you're saving at goalie.
It's also going to overload people on Tarasenko on DraftKings, especially because of his price. So that's something that, if you're getting like 90% Tarasenko in your lineups, you might want to tamp that down about 30 or 40%.
Any other thoughts on that?
I will say, so if you're playing a cash lineup, a lot of the times you're not, at least on DraftKings, you're not going to end up on full stacks. There's a lot who am I pairing with Travis Hamonic tonight? Nobody. I just like him because he's good value. And that's okay. I could build a top 10, top 5% lineup, I feel, on a nightly basis with not having much correlation and me just picking dudes who I feel like are too cheap and in good spots. But in terms of getting to the top 5 to top 0.1% of lineups, you're going to need some correlation unless you absolutely just nail it. And so, for that reason, your cash lineup, that you play each night, I would only have it in single entry GPPs and head-to-heads and double-ups. It's not going to win first place. It's not going to. If it does, you just crushed the nuts. On any normal night, that lineup stands no chance of winning a GPP with, multiple entries allowed in it.
I agree. We got one more question. Well, two. Someone came in late and they asked, just got here, any teams you're looking for stacking? I mean, we went over this. But for those of you who might have missed it and don't have the time to watch it, definitely Edmonton is the top stack of the night. if you head over and look at my cheat sheet for Fanduel specifically, I like both the St. Louis 1 and 2. I like the Kings power play. I like the Vegas power play. We'll have to keep an eye on that news that we still haven't got yet. But those would be my top stacks. And then you can look at like San Jose 1. I like the matchup they have with Puso and the Blues. I don't mind Colorado 1. I don't love them, but I don't hate them either. Nushkinen is way too cheap also for cash purposes. And then like if you want like Montreal is going to be so chalky. But if you want to throw them in a couple stacks, I don't mind that. Any other stacks you guys to answer that question?
Colorado too. I'm definitely a fan of stack wise, outside of the ones that you already have listed. I feel like Vegas honestly could go low on the night too, and like it'll only being a 6-game slate, that maybe there's a little bit of leverage to be had with them.
Yeah, one question. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was going to say, I think I just covered all the stacks I could think of for tiers. I think I covered all of those as well. So,
somebody asked Fleury projected for Vegas. He is right now. And they also asked, why do you like St. Louis 2 over St. Louis 1? Me personally, I just think that they're producing a little bit more lately. Tarasenko back with 1 definitely helps that top line. I just want to play the Shen-Pron Hoffman line, just because of their recent production and Tarasenko just coming back. He might have a little rust on him to take 4 shots. Definitely a better DraftKings play than FanDuel. It's kind of like a pick and choose kind of thing. Like I love both of them tonight.
One thing that our newer people might not understand too is St. Louis is the road team tonight. So theoretically, their second line should be the top line for the away team. The home team in hockey gets preference on line matchups when there's a stoppage of play. So when teams are going out for the face-off, the visiting team has to put their players on the ice first. If they put their best line on the ice, the home team is going to put their best defensive line on the ice. And they're going to try to keep that matchup through the entire game. That's going to open up their second line to a better matchup. So that's where you'll historically see with teams that have depth, their second line will produce more on the road while their top line will produce more at home.
It's a good note to throw out there. I just think like they might try to stop Tarasenko because like, he's coming back, hasn't played in a while. He's going to want to rip off shots and score a goal. So they'll probably throw their best defensive line there. I mean, I don't think the Sharks really have a best defensive line right now, but good. Like between the top 2 lines of St. Louis, they could each score 2 or 3 goals. And then it's kind of pick which one you think is going to score at that point. So if we don't have anything else, we got about an hour until lock. So we're going to be finishing up and finalizing our lineups. Make sure you tag any of us in Slack chat. We'll be there until lock. But if we got nothing else, say we'd wrap this up and get to finishing up our lineups.
Yeah, luckily we have that extra hour till lock tonight because I'm sure I slowed this down a little bit too that we ran late. But I'm going to be jumping right on doing a DS and RS update because there's definitely some stuff that's out of date since the last update I did. So if you're
everyone say thank you for him doing that.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of making your lineups now, give me like 10 minutes and hopefully I'll have everything up to snuff.
Jim is the GOAT. We need him around. Everyone in the chat say thank you because we would be screwed without him.
That is 100% true. I love that. But thanks for joining me guys today. Like I said, I don't think we're going to have a live stream tomorrow, but we will be back on Wednesday with a live stream of the slate. And if you're not a member, shoot up Mdell in your promo code. Save yourself 10% off a VIP membership. One more thing before we go, just go over our cash goalies. I see a question and kind of came late again. Cash goalies is Fleury, Grubauer, and Peterson. Just don't play anyone else in cash besides the 3 of those guys. And if you have any more questions, hit us up in Slack. Hit us with tag our name just so we get the notification. And good luck tonight, and let's see everybody at the top of the leaderboard.
All right, boys.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on today.
No problem.
Good
Anytime.
luck, everybody.